Welcome to the Phase podcast. My name's Kieran and I'm one of your hosts. And welcome to our 15-minute ideas. 15-minute ideas is where we're taking these big ideas, these big thoughts, and thinking about how they can impact our life, how they can improve our life, improve our well-being, improve all aspects of who we are and what we do. Whether you're a young person, a parent, an adult, a professional, we hope that these big ideas help improve you to be the person you want to be. In this episode of the Big Ideas, we're looking at well-being. Now, well-being is something that I'm sure you've heard about. It's a word that's used a lot these days. But the question is, what is it and how do we build it? How do we grow it? How do we develop it? That's what we're going to be looking at in this edition of 15-minute Big Ideas. Well, first of all, what is well-being? For me, well-being is our physical, our mental, our emotional, our social, but also that sense of our spiritual, the greater, the bigger, the things that are beyond us. And what we have to understand with well-being is it's fluid. The fact is that if our physical well-being is not well, actually that impacts our mental and our emotional well-being, our ability to connect with other people. So when we think about well-being, we can't just focus on one aspect of it. Actually, we've got to look at it as a whole. So sometimes well-being is looked at like maybe like an orange where there's segments, there's pieces to it. But for me, really, well-being is more like a peach and it's all connected. And if I'm not thinking about one aspect of it, it's going to impact on all the other aspects. So as we think about these big ideas and think about well-being, I've got 5 key things that I want to encourage you to contemplate, to think about, to put into practice, and to give a go, to see how they can improve and impact your sense of well-being. The very first one for me, and probably the most important really, is prioritizing sleep. Sleep is something that we often will say to people, actually, I can survive on 5 hours sleep. But the question is, we might be able to survive on 5 hours, but are we thriving? Is that helping us? Is 5 good? Now, I'm sure as you sit there, and if I asked you this question face to face and said, look, do you think you would feel better with more sleep? The chances are you'd say yes. And it's crazy that us as humans, we're the only species that actually force ourselves to stay awake. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably sat there watching the TV some evenings and started to nod off, started to drift off. Now, what I should do in those moments is think, hey, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. But what do? And again, if you're anything like me, you probably think, it's too early, or I'm going to stay awake. I'm going to watch the end of this program or do this thing. So strangely, we actually force ourselves to stay awake when really our body is telling us that we're tired. And the thing is, when we have less sleep, we actually stop ourselves from being able to regulate our emotions. Again, if you're anything like me, you'll find that if you've not had so much sleep, you're a bit more ratty or snappy, actually a bit more grumpy. And the thing is, when we don't have sleep, our ability to manage how we feel, to think through our choices and our actions, to think through what we're saying or how we're saying it is all impacted. When we don't have enough sleep, we actually stop our brain being able to process the day that we've had, to be able to store away all of that learning, all of that thinking we've been doing. When we sleep, our body is doing so much more than just recharging. It's rejuvenating, it's restoring, it's repairing. Maybe all of the activity we've been doing that day, as our muscle fibers are doing different things. Our brain is doing a load of work while we're asleep. Many of you may remember our old Windows computers where you had to do a defrag every so often, and just an ability for almost the hard drive to repair. Actually, our brains are a lot like that. At the end of the day, our brain will be going through all of those key things that we've done in the day. How do I feel about it? What was good? What wasn't so good? Putting away all of that learning, all that studying, actually putting it into our sort of deeper thinking aspects of our brain so we can recall that information when needed. But when we don't have that sleep, we actually stop that from happening. Now, again, if we've not had enough sleep, and if you're anything like me, just how I interact with those around me the next day is not so good. Actually, my choices aren't as good. If I'm tired, the first thing I'm reaching for is some caffeine or that sugar hit to keep me going. So then it starts to impact my physical well-being because my food and drink choices aren't what I really want them to be. In fact, when I haven't got enough sleep, my ability to make those choices about what I want to do. Sometimes I'm tired. I just want to sit down. I can't be bothered to do that exercise, or I can't be bothered, or I don't have the energy or the mental capacity to focus on that task or activity that I need to do. So it impacts our choices, it impacts our emotions, it impacts all these different aspects. So sleep is so important. Something that I'll link down in the description is Matt Walker's TED Talk on sleep being our superpower. And he talks in great detail about how sleep is so important. So I'd really encourage you to check that out. It's a fantastic TED Talk. So prioritizing sleep is number one and probably one of the key aspects of building and maintaining our well-being. Number two, physical activity. Physical activity is really important. Actually getting that blood going, getting our bodies moving, helping us to just elevate that heart rate. Now, I didn't say go to the gym, because sometimes that's what we hear when we hear physical activity is about going for the run or going for a gym, playing sport. Actually, physical activity is around moving, having momentum, having movement, getting that heart rate up, whether it's walking around the block, whether it's choosing to take the stairs over the escalator or the lift. Physical activity is really important. One actually that enables us to do, coming back to our thinking, is when we maybe go for a walk, we give our brain time to think. Physical activity is really important because as it gets that blood flowing, it actually helps our brain, it reoxygenates all of our body, obviously keeps us fit and healthy. One of the things I try really hard to do, especially when I've got a lot on my mind, is to go for a walk. Just simply going for a 15-minute walk around the green that's near my office, or even just taking a walk around the block when I'm at home, helps to just clear my mind, give me some time to think, to process. Sometimes at work I'll even have a walking meeting, because when we've got that movement changes emotion. And sometimes when we're walking or doing something like that, we're actually a lot more creative. We can have that ability to look at problems differently. If you're just stuck there staring at something, it can be really hard to think about something differently, or to think of an alternative solution, or to have that creative moment. Physical activity and making it part of our life, doing it regularly, making sure it's in with our daily habits is really important. And say simply, instead of taking the car, walking to the shop, or doing something that can fit in with our day that just enables our heart rate to go up. Simply 15 minutes a day can have a huge impact on how we feel. And in fact, as the more movement we do, the better we feel about that movement. Now, I know that's not always possible, depending on what our circumstances are. So even just doing something at home, doing some arm circles in our chairs, making sure that we're getting our heart rate up, getting that blood flowing, can really help improve our well-being. Number 3 on our top tips for well-being in our 15-minute big ideas is connection with others. Having that connection with other people, having that tribe or that circle, that group of people that we can connect with, we can talk with, we can be ourselves around, we can share the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, really helps improve our well-being. One of the things that lockdown showed us is that isolation is not good. It really impacts how we feel about ourselves and the world around us. But when we're connecting with other people, that helps boost our well-being, our sense of self, our sense of purpose, our sense of place in the world can be boosted by that connection. Now, one of the issues that we see in our world today is that we're very much a text-based society, whether that's text messages or social media. Actually, our connection with other people can feel quite difficult. Putting ourselves out there to connect and have relationships and grow friendships can be quite difficult. And so one of the things that I'll encourage you to do is to have a little look at your phone book, scroll through, just choose one person, maybe drop them a text, just say, "Hi, how are you?" and see what happens. It can feel quite scary, yet reaching out to other people and creating that connection moment can help us. Actually, that will get your heart rate pumping. But you can connect with those people around you. Be brave to do that, to actually strike up a conversation. Sometimes it's actually about, if we're not sure how to connect with people, it's maybe think about, what do I enjoy doing? What would I like to learn? Is there a group around me that I can join? Speaking to somebody recently, they were talking about pickleball. And they've actually started to play pickleball, and it's helping them to connect with a variety of people from different backgrounds and walks of life, different ages. They're actually doing some physical activity. It's crafting and creating a time in their week when they are going to do some exercise. But not only that, they're connecting with people, they're laughing, they're having fun, they're growing friendships. When we connect with people, when we're able to talk and be heard, be listened to, being able to express how we're feeling, that improves our well-being. But not only that, when that happens, we're able to do that for other people. So connection is really important. Another key one that we don't always think about is reflection. Actually creating time to reflect. Life can be so busy that we're running around with what feels like 10,000 things in our brain. But actually having some time to reflect, to process, is really good. I've actually started to journal recently, and it's been extremely helpful in me managing my thoughts, my emotions, being able to actually get more things done, actually improve my physical activity, because I've started to realize how important what I need to do that. My connection with other people actually has been improved for that, because one of the things I do in my journal is I actually think about people that I want to pray for. As a Christian, it's a key part of who I am and my life. And so I just write down 3 people that are on my brain, on my mind, and lift them up in my thoughts and prayers. Now, when I started, I wasn't really sure what to do. So I just got a pad and I Googled some journal prompts. One of them said, what moment was I grateful for in the last week and why? And so I spent 10 minutes writing about a moment that I was grateful for and what it was. Why was I grateful? Now, what that did is, as I reflected upon that, and actually went around the rest of the day looking for those moments to be grateful, looking for those things that I could smile at, that I could enjoy. Now, taking that moment to reflect impacted the rest of my day. Also, journaling or reflection, having these moments where we're processing thoughts, can actually help manage our executive function. That part of our brain where we're making all these decisions and choices, that can often get overloaded, a bit like a laptop when you've got what feels like 10,000 programs running at once. It runs much slower and less efficient. By allowing our brain some time to process thoughts, we can actually be able to think clearer, think better. Again, make better choices and decisions, because we're not overloading those key aspects of our brain. So take some time to journal, to think, to reflect. If you're not into journaling, maybe it's actually taking some time to talk to somebody, which again brings us back to that connection. Thinking about what you hope for, what's been good, but also thinking about what's not been so good. Sometimes our society can tell us that we're not allowed to have feelings that are difficult or painful, but we can. We're human. That's part of life. Not everything is always great, but reflecting on these things. How can I be a better person, the kind of person I want to be? How can I improve my well-being, and what do I need to do? Reflection is key in that. Now, there have been 4 really big ones: prioritizing sleep, physical activity, connection with others, and reflection. The final one I want to think about that really does help our well-being as well is to laugh. Laughing is so important for our well-being. Steve Peters in his Chimp Paradox book, which is a great book. If you've not read it, I'd really encourage you to do so. Again, I'll put a link down to that book in the description. He talks about how humor is key for resilience. If we've got that ability to laugh at ourselves, laugh at the world around us, not in a negative way, but just to see the joy in things that just makes us smile and laugh, it really helps our resilience, helps boost our sense of well-being, our sense that actually we've got that capacity to adapt and manage. We've got that capacity to make decisions and problem solve. When we laugh, it improves our well-being. It helps us to adapt. We're able to see the lighter side of things. We can actually not take things so seriously. In fact, when we laugh, we smile. And in fact, when we smile, it tells our brain that we're feeling good, which in turn makes our well-being increase. Laughing is so important. was telling a friend recently about reading a book. I was reading a Ben Elton book, the book called Inconceivable, which is a really funny book. Now, I, at the time, wasn't really a big reader, and I'd gone away on holiday and I'd grabbed this book. It wasn't too big, and I thought, wow, it'd be a good thing to read. This book made me laugh out loud. I'd never experienced a book that when I read it and there's Ben Elton as he writes was really funny. It made me laugh so much. I remember sitting on this sun lounger and people just kept looking at me because they just kept laughing. But it was a great book, a great moment. Even as I think about it now, I'm smiling, I'm starting to laugh. So that laughter is really important in building our well-being. The having people to laugh with really helps. So again, coming back to that connection, having those around you that make you laugh. I know that when I have a bad day, there's some friends I call because they bring joy. They make me laugh. They just make me smile. Whatever's happening, they help me to smile and enjoy. Now, these are 5 things. Yes, there are more things we can do to build our well-being, but I'd encourage you to think about these 5, to prioritize sleep, to make sure you're having some physical activity, to develop that connection with other people, to take time to reflect, and also to laugh. Now, I hope that these big ideas are going to help you. I'd encourage you to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. We'll also get in contact, let us know some ideas or things you'd like us to think about and to discuss. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Phase podcast for our 15-minute big ideas.